Closer together and you'll be a little warmer. Thank you so much for being out here today.
I call this On the Wings of a Butterfly. Why must our parkland be preserved? Of what significance is Pacific Spirit Regional Park ecologically, culturally, and spiritually? Pacific Spirit faces many changes in these dark days of rising oceans and increasingly chaotic and unpredictable weather patterns. Our parks must adapt to global warming as we lose wetlands outside the dikes to increase diking and filling. For Pacific Spirit, this could mean a substantial loss of richly biodiverse estuarine habitat through diking. Ecologically, Pacific Spirit encompasses intertidal and foreshore to the forested upland ecological reserve. According to Metro Vancouver's park manager, Ed Andrusiak, increased salinity at freshet will begin affecting different fish species in the Fraser. Warming ocean surfaces will bring tuna that in turn feed on salmon already threatened by a soup of pollutants blended by rising temperatures, sea lice, and escalating loss of habitat. In addition, the Point Grey surf smelt will be affected because their spawning beds lie along the foreshore. They provide food for juvenile salmon. Prolonged warmer weather will also increase the danger of West Nile virus, which will in turn cause loss of biodiversity through spraying of our parks. Now, more than ever in the history of Pacific Spirit, we must not lose any of our precious parkland. If anything, we need more, not less parkland, if we are to preserve wellness in our urban environments. We are all interconnected in the web of life, and especially in Pacific Spirit. Perhaps a microcosm of just how finely tuned nature has created this interconnectedness is best illustrated by the Johnson's hairstreak butterfly. This unassuming little butterfly is another example of the delicate balance of life in Pacific Spirit Regional Park, because its larval stage depends entirely on mistletoe for survival, and it feeds on blooms along Imperial Trail. Remove the mistletoe as an invasive, and you remove another life that existed in these forests long before the white man came. And what of the interrelationships of all things in the park? Great blue herons feed along the foreshore but nest in the uplands. Mated pairs of pileated woodpeckers all along the foreshore exist, and eagles teach their young to hunt seagulls, treating beach visitors to aerial displays of life and death hunting techniques. In the early mornings and at sunset, they appear to be guarding the craggy cliffs. Seasonally, the entire Western Hemisphere's population of western sandpipers move along the Wreck Beach Point Grey foreshore within the Pacific Migratory Flyway. Coyotes, deer, skunk, river otters, seals, squirrels, rabbits, and the forest folk, yes, forest folk, populate the foreshore ravines and forests of Pacific Spirit. I'm sure you've seen them in the evening mists. What a difference lies between a flat map and the actuality of the triangle lands the provincial government has used as a bartering chip with the Musqueam, or people of the grass. The tip of that triangle, because I walked it yesterday, is only 330 feet south of Samanad-bearing Booming Ground Creek, also known as Skamatwalthasta. So, while the Musqueam may not have been awarded Booming Ground Creek and its watershed, Musqueam development of the Triangle lands will indirectly affect the creek, watershed, and vast marshes below. Yesterday I hiked into this tangle of forested Triangle lands, admiring Cutthroat Creek, savoring gnarled old crabapple trees, sifting rich forest loam through my fingers, standing in awe before ancient cedar stumps, and amazingly being joined briefly by a barred owl just at dusk. Surveyor stakes mutely reminded me that this will soon be no more. We are all blessed in Pacific Spirit that the Musqueam and later visitors to this area of planet Earth have felt and recognized the inherent spirituality of this precious place and of those who have gone long before us. For example, the village of Little Stockade lay near a giant erratic rock left behind thousands of years ago during the Ice Age. Upriver from there was a village known as Devil's Fish Spring. Farther along Wreck Beach beyond Point Grey lies another of the 12 large rocks known as the 12 Sisters, lying scattered along the length of beach between the present-day Musqueam Reserve and Acadia section of Wreck Beach. The farthest flung rock was called the Howling Rock because of the strong westerly and northerly winds that blow around Point Grey. It also served as a landmark for the Musqueam people so they would know where to send their sentinels or lookouts when the Haida, my forebears, and the Cowichan Indians came to raid. Trotting the sun-dappled paths between giant fir, cedar, and even noble fir is often more spiritual than sitting in any church man might ever build. Sacred bathing pools along Musqueam Creek, culturally modified trees on the cliff edge below Old Southwest Marine Drive, middens gracing the foot of Booming Ground Creek remind us of a time when man respected the land as a living entity, something we tend to divorce ourselves from in this modern age of glass, steel, and concrete. The better solution, since the government has expropriated or appropriated the parkland, is for them to instead appropriate or expropriate the Shaughnessy Golf Course for housing on the upland portion and for agricultural purposes on the remainder. After all, before the land became a golf course, the Musqueam leased it to the Chinese truck gardeners in the early 1900s. In the words of Chief Seattle, man did not create the web of life. He is but one strand of it. And what we do to the birds and the beasts, we do to one another.
Thank you, Judy.